So welcome. Who's this orientation for? A couple of weeks ago, the union sent out an email that explained the ETP program for CUPE members, and we got an overwhelming response. We responded to a lot of those emails by text. But we thought it might be a good idea to actually do something a little bit more interactive and a little bit more personal to answer your questions face to face in this way, or virtually face to face. So this orientation is really for two groups of people. One, for CUPE members who maybe aren't registered for the ETP program, or maybe just came to the ETP program and want to know a little bit more. And the second group are for people who have been around for a while, but they need a refresher, or they need an update. So that's who that's for. Thanks, Jenny. Richard,
Okay,
I see you again. There we go.
I just noticed the mute there. Yeah, so with that, we'll start with the agenda. Thanks a lot, Renee, on that. So as you can see on the agenda here, this is what we'll be covering in the next little while. So as you can see, we'll start off by looking at the purpose of the program itself, sort of the high level of the ETP ET program, as I tend to call it, how it's actually structured, but also equally the types of objectives that you can look forward to in terms of what you can get out of the program. And then we're going to focus on the CUPE aspect, or should I say the CUPE lane of the ET program in terms of the progression, some of the core elements that make up that part of the lane. And then lastly, but not least, before we actually go into the questions, we'll look at the resources, the assessment assistance that's actually available from the teaching and development team. And then, of course, we'll leave some time for questions if you may have any. So without further ado, I'll pass it back to, I believe it's Jenny, to look at the overall ETP program.
Thanks, Richard. So I'll just talk about the ETP sort of broadly. The Excellence in Teaching program at TMU is sort of our center's biggest professional development program for instructors. So whenever we get inquiries, like whenever I get an email from someone saying, hey, I'm looking to learn more about such and such teaching topic, or I just want to develop my teaching in general, usually my first answer will be, have you looked at the Excellence in Teaching program? It's specifically to support TMU instructors in developing their teaching. And it includes a suite of workshops. We have some core workshops that we do every single year. And then we also kind of create new workshops depending on sort of like the student needs that are emerging or demand from instructors. And those are open to anyone to attend. You may have seen them in the learning events calendar where you can go and register for them, or on our page where you can also go register for them. They include topics from anything from like assessment design or rubric design to developing your teaching philosophy, which is a mandatory component of your teaching dossier. And then we have other topics like developing your anti-racist pedagogy, teaching large classes. There's a lot of them. There's workshops, and then there's the instructional skills workshop, which David will talk a little bit more about later. And there's a pathway that Renee has designed specifically to support CUPE and kind of going through the program, completing the workshops, completing ISW, and then hopefully getting something meaningful out of it for their teaching dossiers or their portfolios. So I think I said everything on the slide without reading the slide. Yeah, it's our main teaching development program for instructors here.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, so when I first started back in 2022, there was only one main part of the ETP program, and that was for TFA. And as I mentioned earlier, coming from the ranks of CUPE and coming from that membership, it was really important for me, and everybody at CELT agreed that we start to think about something specifically for CUPE. So what we did is between October 8th in 2022 and October 17th, 2022, we put out a survey to CUPE membership with the help of Kelly Train and her colleagues. Some of you may have been around and participated in this survey at the time, but it was incredible because, from your own work, that survey uptake is never really that huge, but we got a pretty good response, 220 respondents. And what we heard at the time was that in wanting professional development, there were some key areas for support that CUPE wanted. The first one was to have support around advancing equity and diversity, have support around building a professional or an academic portfolio, making sure that there was support around material preparation for courses, grading, responding to challenging situations, and then facilitating in the classroom. We also heard something really interesting because if you remember, at that point, we were just kind of coming out of the last parts of the intense part of the pandemic. And so people really felt strongly that they wanted something that could be asynchronously delivered and virtually that could be offered or they could pick up in the morning, afternoon, and evening. That's the snapshot in 2022. We are going to take another snapshot later on this year, but we started to build out the CUPE specific program of ETP based on this information. Jenny, you can switch the slide for me, please. So here's what we got. We developed a pathway. So that includes 4 key areas that you go through. And at the end of going through all these key areas, you get a badge, so you get that recognition. So I would say probably 3 key areas, and then the 4th is this recognition. The first is, as Jenny spoke about earlier, attending 5 workshops in key topics, the ones that Jenny spoke to earlier, and these can be synchronous or asynchronous. So you can definitely come to our live in-person workshops or live virtual workshops. It doesn't matter, but know that they are offered for you. The second is the practice piece. So the first piece is learning some of these key facilitation or key teaching pieces. And then the next piece is getting a chance to practice. One is by participating in the ISW, which is the Instructional Skills Workshop. David, pause on that because David is going to speak to that a little bit more in a couple of minutes. And then the second, which we are currently not offering at this moment, but that's okay because you have the ISW option, is a teaching philosophy development piece, retreat. The third piece is to be able to reflect on what you've learned and both in terms of what you've learned from the workshops and the ISW, and that's to participate in a teaching philosophy development module, so not the retreat, a module, and that's actually on our D2L, our Brightspace page, and that is where you actually build out a teaching philosophy and you get feedback from your colleagues, and then you build it out more based on the feedback that you get, and you have your teaching philosophy. Once you finish these 3 points, you have completed the CUPE ETP program, and you get recognized by receiving a badge. Thank you, Jenny. So David's going to talk about what the ISW looks like.
Thanks, Renee. So the ISW, it's an acronym for Instructional Skills Workshop. And what it is, it's a 24-hour intensive workshop, typically spread out over 3 days. And it's there to help you enhance your course delivery and facilitation strategies. It's over the course of 3 days, you meet in you alternate between a large group and a small group. The large group is never larger than 15, and your small groups are usually from 4 to 5 people. And it's this really nice space where you can refine your lesson planning and delivery techniques. It's a workshop that was not devised by us. It's devised by a group from British Columbia and goes all the way back to the 1970s. So it's a program that's internationally recognized and done all over the world, even as far as Asia. But because it has a very strict set of criteria, we have to make sure that all participants hit certain markers in order to successfully give them the certificate. One of those markers is that you have to be in attendance for all 24 hours of this workshop, which are almost always offered in person. So that is sort of something to keep in mind. Yes, we as the slide here indicates, it does go towards your completion of the Excellence in Teaching program. That's something that is true both for CUPE as well as for TFA participants. I'm seeing here on the slide some additional notes. So you'll be planning and delivering 10-minute mini lessons. You'll be doing that once per day. There's a lot of active listening, and it's very much built on a peer feedback model. So the feedback you're getting is not from us staff members who are facilitating the experience. It's actually from the group members that you have. And we try our best to create groups that are multidisciplinary. So you'll get feedback from people that aren't necessarily in your discipline. And we have found that that's been an effective way to kind of really challenge people to hone in on creating those concise and effective mini lessons. So yeah, as I stated earlier, it's typically offered over the span of 3 days. And if you will indulge me, I just want to launch a couple of poll quiz questions. We're currently in the process of trying to figure out when to schedule our ISW offerings for the 2024-2025 year. And so I'm going to launch a question here. The first is with respect to the time of year. So in this question, we're just asking you to check off up to 6 of the following 12 months. Which of the months listed here are most likely to work for your schedule? And again, this information is just for our benefit to kind of figure out what is likely to work if we do decide to book at any given time of year. So I'll just give maybe 20 or 30 more seconds just to see what people are saying. I don't know if it's by virtue of being at the top of the list, but it looks like the spring summer is very, very popular. And if you can choose up to 6, just to kind of get a sense of like the months that work best, that would be helpful for us. Looks like we have 84% of you have indicated. I'll maybe just give maybe 10 more seconds. Also seeing January and February are resoundingly not popular. Okay, so we'll end the poll there, and then I have a second question. So these are the results. As I stated earlier, May through August seems to be the most popular for everybody. Then some of the fall, winter, not so much. Okay. And now I'll just do a second question. This is with respect to how the ISW is scheduled. So as I stated earlier, it's typically done in 3 days. We have done different variations of how we offer these particular 3 days. And so that's the subject of the next question, which I'll launch now. Which of the following types of schedules would work best for your preferences? And I'll just go over them quickly. So the first is what we're calling intensive. These are 3 consecutive days in the same week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Horseshoe, which are 3 consecutive work days with a weekend in the middle. So you do Thursday, Friday, and then there'd be a weekend, and then you wrap up on the Monday. Or potentially, but less likely, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. Honestly, it would probably be more the Thursday, Friday, Monday. And finally, weekly, which is where we have the 3 days on 3 consecutive weeks on the same work day, which in all likelihood would be a Friday, but not necessarily. So if you just spend the next 30 seconds or so going over this list, check any that you think would work for you in terms of, it is a big time and energy commitment. So if anyone wants to just indicate when they think it would work best for them, and I'll give you another maybe 20 seconds to fill out this question. Okay, so we have 85% of you have indicated this. And so I'll end the poll and share the results. And as we can see here, the weekly option is actually the most popular based on your results. followed by intensive, and then horseshoe is the least popular option. So I do appreciate you taking this time to give us some feedback as we plan for the year ahead. And with that, I will stop sharing these results, and I'll just share a link in the chat that has more details about the instructional skills workshop. And I will turn things over, I believe, to Richard.
That's correct. Thank you so much, David. So the e-learning modules are part of the resources that are actually available from the center. And as you can see here, specifically in terms of making available some of the core components of the ETP workshops, only in this case, it's asynchronous. In other words, you can take them pretty much anywhere. You have access to your internet and access to D2L. But they're also quite interactive, just to make sure that you as a participant can still achieve the stated objectives that you would normally have obtained if you were to attend these workshops live. So far, we have just one e-learning module that's currently in the course shell, which is developing your teaching philosophy, launched last year. This particular program or workshop, in terms of being an e-module, as you can see on the slide, it does consist of a number of short videos that are interspaced with some reflective worksheets, essentially allowing you to reflect on what you've seen on the video, but also the content of the workshop itself. All this is to lead towards an activity where you'll actually put together a teaching philosophy that's going to be shared with your peers, and that essentially forms part of your evaluation as to completion of this particular e-module. You'll actually get a worksheet at the end of this module, just to make sure that you've checked the requirements of the e-module. In other words, you've gone through all the videos, all the reflective worksheets that are within the e-module, and of course the fact that you'd have done the teaching philosophy and shared it with your peers and have evaluated yourself and them accordingly. So as you can see, at the same time, the team is currently working very hard to put together 2 more e-modules, e-learning modules, specifically that we hope to be available by the fall of this year. This will consist of gathering evidence of teaching effectiveness, as well as the rubric design and principles of assessment. So I'm sure most of you have attended some of the workshops already. So for those that have attended some of the workshops with Jenny, you'll actually see some of them being voiced over by her. So I actually look forward to this because they will definitely open up the scope in terms of achieving some of those 5 core workshops that participants within the program need to be able to check off in order to progress within the program itself. So with that, I'm going to pass it back on to Renee to talk about some of the key messages.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, so that's what the program, sorry, there's a train going just as I'm speaking, but I think it's okay. That's what the program looks like for CUPE. There's some key things that I want to make sure get emphasized right now. Number 1 is, yes, you complete the 3 pieces of the program and you get your badge. That's the first thing. But the second thing is that, and this is really important, is that this is a flexible program and we've built it to be flexible. It's flexible in the sense that you don't have a time frame for which you have to finish this. And I see some comments which are really valid about, when you're CUPE, you're in and out of contract, right? And that impacts how you can participate in the program. If you need to take 2 years, 3 years, 6 months, whatever to finish the program, it works within your time frame and your contract. So that's really important. And as we mentioned, we're building this program based on the survey information that we received from you that we also continue to update. And so it's really important as part of that flexibility to hear from you. from those surveys, to hear your voice through those surveys. The second thing is that there's lots of support as we're building this out. There's lots of points, and that's why it was really important for me and for all of us to be able to show you, here's what we look like, here's who we are, so you know who you're contacting to get support, to ask questions from. And then the other piece that's really important is that we really rely on the D2L shell for communication. And I'm going to try to share my screen. I had some problems a second ago, but let's see. I think I can do this. So here's my screen. So this is what it looks like for people who are, OGs around this. You already know what it looks like, but for people who are new, it's worth kind of looking at. This is what it looks like when you sign up. So this is how we communicate. This is how you communicate with us. And why this is important is because, and again, part of the flexibility, once you complete a portion of the ETP program, you need to go in and confirm that you've completed. So this is based on an honor system in this way. So you confirm that you've completed it, and we
Sorry
give
to
you the
interrupt you,
okay.
Renee. Sorry, Renee, sorry to interrupt you. It looks like
Sure.
Does it just mean that not seeing yours?
Are people seeing my
Renee,
screen?
I'm the one sharing the screen, Renee. So do you want me to
Oh.
stop sharing so you can share your screen?
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry
Thanks,
about that.
Richard. Thanks, Jenny. Okay. Now it says on my screen, participants can now see my screen. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so this is what it looks like, our D2L shell. Once you have completed part of the program, you can go in and confirm that you've completed. It's an honor system. And so we, on our end, we say, yes, you've said, yes, I've completed it. And we say, yes, we agree. And we both check that off. But it's also the place where you find, for example, the teaching philosophy module that Richard just spoke about. It's all the way here at the bottom, and where you'll find the other asynchronous modules to complete as they come up and as they develop. So you can see here that you can track your progress in ETP. You can offer feedback on the program. You can see upcoming programs. So that's where you can see what kinds of workshops are happening and register. And then you can always get the ETP program overview in case you've forgotten. And then, of course, you can contact us by email as well through this program. So that's our main form of communication. But again, I want to, Jenny, can we switch and I'll stop sharing and we can go back to you. But what I want to emphasize is that this is a flexible program. It needs flexibility because we're on contract work as CUPE workers. For the most part, we've done that intentionally. There's lots of support. There's lots of ways to offer feedback, and there's lots of ways to access us as you're going through this. So that's it for us, I think. Let's check the last slide. I think it is. Checking to see if there are any questions that people have. And just wanting to thank you for coming today and making time, thanking the people who are listening and not here today for coming through as well. And of course, to my colleagues for coming together and putting this together as well. All right, everyone, take care. Bye.